Now I was talking with the grapes and they seem to be fine with it. So, hello, my name is Crystal and welcome to our channel. I'm out here with the grapes today, having a little talk with them, trying to figure out what the most inexpensive way to trellis them is. I'd like to use supplies that we already have here. I don't want to spend any extra money on this. We have cut down a lot of small cedar trees around the property, and I have all of those logs piled up over there. And then I have some extra 8-foot handy panels from Tractor Supply. I think I'm going to try and build something that will use those things and can easily be taken down if I want to do something different later. So I'm going to go over and grab some of the cedar logs that we have and a handy panel. It's an 8-foot cattle panel. The 8-foot handy panels are easier to bring home than the 16-foot cattle panels. So that's why I was able to get a whole bunch of them here. And I use them for trellising in the garden and temporary fencing, and they're handy. That's probably why they're called a handy panel. The grapes are doing pretty well. One of them is starting to blossom, and like you can tell it's gonna do good. And then one of them's doing okay, and then two of them not so much. But we'll see. I think it takes some time before you can really tell if they're doing anything. As for the grapes that are already here, I don't know. I don't know anything about grapes, and that's part of why this is fun for me, because I'm learning and I prefer to learn by doing. I'm going to be building probably 2 8-foot fences, basically just with the cedar posts that we have from trees we've cut down on our property and the 8-foot handy panels. Let's get into it. So I just built a trellis arbor thing for grapes, and I did it all by myself, and I used only things that we already had here on the property. Over the past years, we've taken down some cedar trees that were either going to be in the way of us planting fruit trees, or they were just in a bad spot and they were going to fall over soon anyway. Plus we found cedar logs from old trees that had fallen down in our woods. So using those and trying to find similar sizes, I used a Sawzall and just cut the pieces to the length that I needed and tried to make them look as uniform as possible. But I also made it so that it's easy to take down. So if for some reason I think of a better way of trellising it or a nicer looking way of trellising it, I can easily take these down and reuse the handy panel somewhere else. So I tried to keep the fatter end of the log down in the ground, but I also wanted them to be uniform. So one of them I flipped upside down so that they all look the same. I cut each cedar log 6 feet in length. The handy panels are 50 inches by 8 feet. By cutting them 6 feet, I was able to put them foot-ish in the ground and then raise the handy panel up a few inches off of the ground itself so that there's some clearance there, and then I left enough room across the top to put a crossbar. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, and I can still take it down if I want, but I realized today that the grapevines that were already existing here are starting to grow buds, so I wanted to make sure that they had a spot to grab onto the trellis as well. I felt like putting the cross beams up made it not only more sturdy, but it added another point for the grapes to trellis onto. I took down the stump that was here. I used the Sawzall because that's what I had out here, and I took down the stump and I filled in with some topsoil just to even it out a little bit. We're gonna weed it pretty heavily in here, put down a bunch of mulch just to keep the weeds from coming back. It'll also make it easier for us when we go to mow and weed whack around here if that's all got mulch and you can clearly see where the grapevines are coming out of the ground. I tried to wrap them up as best as I could. I kind of left them alone until I see where they're gonna bud out, and then I might prune it back and retrain it up that way. For now, I'm just gonna kind of leave it be until they start to grow their buds and I can see where it's gonna be growing out new vines, and then I'll train those up the trellis and then prune back the old stuff. The other thing that's really good about this kind of design is that I'll easily be able to put a net over the top of it to keep birds and things away if I need to. But I'm really excited to grow grapes, and I hope this works out well. I want to thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for subscribing. We will see you next time. Bye.